Welcome to the Opening Bid Podcast. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Like I always say, this podcast will make you a smarter investor and a better leader. Before we get to our really cool featured interview guests for this episode, have to do our stock of the day. Stock of the day is Apple. The iPhone SE is rumored to be dropping today. First blush, you think, this is an iPhone priced under $500. Apple will sell some phones and it's all good. But this could be a real money-making opportunity for Apple. Don't get misguided by that sub-$500 price point on this phone, potentially. New note from Evercore ISI tech analyst Amit Dariani estimates that Apple could sell 20 million of these phones within the first year, could bring $12 billion in annual revenue just from this cheap iPhone, and that could lead to 20 cents to 25 cents a share just from this iPhone alone. And that is not including, does Apple charge anything on this phone for Apple Intelligence? So again, you may see a cheap iPhone from Apple, but it can bring in big money, and it might send street estimates higher. All right, let's get to our featured interview for this episode. I'm really excited because I've followed this guy's entire career. Bausch Lomb Chair and CEO, Brent Saunders. Brent, good to see you, man.
Great to see you, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, it feels like we joked off camera. You've had like 9 lives in the healthcare industry. And before we get to Bausch Lomb's earnings, I mean, they dropped today as well. Good quarter for you guys. But is this number right that you've done over $160 billion in deals in healthcare over your career?
That's actually wrong.
Wrong.
I think the number is over $300 billion.
$300 billion.
Yeah. Yes. I had JP Morgan do an analysis of it about a year or so ago, and I forget the exact number, but it was somewhere close to $300 billion.
Yeah, so let's go through a little bit. I mean, this is your second stint in Bausch Lomb, but for those not familiar with your career, I mean, you started essentially at Bausch Lomb 2010 to 2013, sold the company, ended up at Forest Labs, bought Allergan for billions, then Allergan went to AbbVie for, what, $63 billion? I mean, what has made you, or what has driven you to drive all these big deals?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because I think, and appropriately so, I get it. A lot of people think of me as a deal person, and it's so counter to what I think about myself, and so there's always that juxtaposition of the outside view versus the inside view. Look, my whole drive as a company CEO is to create value for shareholders, and I hope to do that through operating well. But sometimes you create such a valuable company, somebody else is willing to pay more for it and give that return to your shareholders. And so I'm always open-minded about that. I always say, as a public company CEO, your stock's for sale every day on the stock exchange. And so if you can get a great return for your shareholders, you have to be open-minded to that.
And you have really your childhood was rooted in healthcare, no?
My father was a doctor, and my first job, I was a lawyer early in my career, was at Thomas Jefferson University and Health System in Philadelphia. And so I worked in a hospital for a couple of years. Then I went into managed care for about a year, and then into consulting, and then the pharmaceutical industry. So my whole career has been in all the different aspects of healthcare.
I read some story, it was a profile of you, I think over a decade ago. You were selling shampoo at the age of 6. I mean, you were somewhere, you were always, you always seem to be just involved with healthcare. I mean, what fascinates you about it?
Yeah, I always, and it's funny because I once got offered a job at a well-known office supply retailer to be CEO, and I thought about it for a night, and I remember saying to myself when I woke up in the morning, will I be obsessive? I always want to be obsessive about the job I have. Can I really motivate myself to sell paper clips and staplers and notepads? Or do I really love selling things that change people's lives, hopefully for the positive, right? And the quest to solve unmet needs in healthcare, the science, and really, like at Bausch Lomb, helping people see better, to live better, really is extra motivation that allows you to get to that obsessive kind of level in your mind.
That wasn't a recent offer, because who the hell wants to run Staples or Office Max or Office Depot?
This was back in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, this was 2013.
Oh, yeah, God, you walk into a Staples, Brent. I mean, I can't think of a more depressing experience. Holy cow.
Oh, it wasn't Staples, to be fair, but a competitor to Staples. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. So let's talk some Bausch Lomb. Like, what, you didn't have to take this job when you came back a couple of years ago. Like, what is so attractive in your mind about the eye care market?
Yeah, it's interesting. I I almost didn't take the job. I actually went back and forth with the board for about a year before I ultimately did it. And I was drawn to it because of my passion for eye care. I started in this industry, as you mentioned, in 2010 as CEO of Bausch Lomb. And then ultimately, when I acquired Allergan, Allergan was a big eye care company. It actually started as an eye care company. And so I have been more or less in this industry for 14, 15 years. And the one thing that's really cool about ophthalmology is if you really, I'll pose the question to you, Brian, what's the most important sense you have, right? And if you lost it, the profound negative impact on your life, it's your eyesight. And we've surveyed humans, for decades, how important eyesight is to the quality of life. And the community of ophthalmology and even optometry is a great community of eye care professionals. They really appreciate innovation. They like to try new things. Many of them are inventors and contribute to the innovation ecosystem. And it's a really close-knit community, even though they're hundreds of thousands of them around the world. It's a really close-knit community of people who are really trying to help people have a higher quality of life through better vision. And it's a really cool field.
And looking at the results for the most recent quarter, I mean, the contact lens business up double digits, U.S. up double digits, international constant currency up double digits. The margins look to be pretty good on the business overall. Is there a breakthrough? I mean, I looked at the slide deck, but like for the lay person out there, is there a breakthrough product in the business of contact lenses that you're working on?
We are actually. It's interesting. In when was it? 1999. We introduced the current materials that are the vast majority of contact lenses, silicone hydrogels. And the whole industry now is driven by silicone hydrogel growth. Those are the daily disposables, and even the FRP, the monthly replacement lenses, are predominantly in that technology. And no one has innovated a new technology since 99. So if you're an optometrist in your mid 40s and you're fitting contact lenses, you've never really experienced a new material. You've seen new deviations of silicone hydrogels, perhaps with new optic designs on it or new modalities, daily, monthly, weekly, but you've never had a true innovation. Our scientists in-house created a new material that we're going to drive into clinical trials this year and potentially launch in 27. Could be a breakthrough, a biomimetic lens that really mimics the biology of your eye in a contact lens. And we're hoping the clinical trials will prove it out that it's healthier for your eye, but it's also much more comfortable for your eye, and really potentially upgrade the standard of care of contact lenses in just a couple of years.
Brent, I've been wearing contact lenses since I was 16, and some 25 plus years later, to me, they feel comfortable. How might they feel different on my eye?
Well, I think, some of the new technologies are certainly very comfortable. We have one in Infuse that has been growing well over 70% this year. So fantastic daily contact lens. But, we're always looking to even improve comfort and improve the health of the lens on your eye. And it's quite difficult to do, creating it. That's why no one's done it in a long time. But you can always get better, right? And our job is to always, look at the standard of care today, which is probably what you're wearing, and say, how do you even make that better? And it's not just comfort. Comfort's a very important dynamic, but it's health of your eye, and then frankly improving the vision quality, right? You want to be able to see the computer, right? A lot of people are locked in now doing what we're doing, right? Talking on the computer.
Somehow this is destroying my eyes.
Right.
The past couple of years, it had to have taken a toll.
It has actually, and it is an epidemic. It's called myopia, and that's a totally different issue. And children today, particularly, are really suffering from this interaction with their phones and computer screens so close to their face. Not to change topics, but if you really think about it, your eye needs to be exercised like your muscles. You look like you go to the gym, right? You exercise your muscles.
So many
right?
times, so many times. Thank you for noticing. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just pointing out, right? And if you think about your eyes, particularly for kids, if you don't exercise your eyes, and what I mean by that is get outside, look far away. Your eye is a muscle; it contracts and moves. And if you're always stuck in this close vision kind of situation, you're not exercising your eye like a muscle, and then you destroy your vision, and it can be permanent. And so we really do have this epidemic. China's already declared it an epidemic. It is happening in Europe and the US as well. And we are working on technologies, particularly for children and adolescents, to try to correct the myopia epidemic. It's a big problem.
What the hell, Brett, is going to happen to our eyes as Facebook rolls out more of these interactive glasses? I mean, this is where it seems like big tech is going. I mean, you not only have the 3D goggles, but you have sunglasses that are portraying images. I mean, these have to be massively destructive on our eyes.
It is. It leads to not only myopia, which is the destruction of your far vision, right? But it also leads to dry eye and lots of other conditions that which is contributing to the growth of the eye care market is all this screen time. It really is a problem. And I always say to my kids, get outside, look around, get off your screens. Even if you're during the day in your job, they have that 10-10 rule, like look away for 10 seconds and try to look far away, every 10 minutes. Now it's hard to do and it's hard to train people to do that. But it's a real issue, and it's only getting worse.
Oh, I can't even imagine doing that. All right, Brent, hang with us for a second. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back on Opening Bid. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid. Having a great chat here with Bausch Lomb Chair and CEO Brent Saunders, healthcare veteran. Told me at the top of the show my number's wrong and the amount of deals he's done. Had a study. Well, over $300 billion in deals. This guy's just a legendary deal maker in the healthcare space and still a pretty young dude. So recently, Brent, there's been a lot of deal chatter on your company. Earlier this month, you said no deal, no dice. But you didn't rule it out from happening, right?
No, well, look, as a public company, you can never say never, right? As I said earlier, our stocks for sale every day on the exchange. That being said, I think I also told you the only time I'll contemplate a deal is if I believe we can create more value for our shareholders with a deal. And in this case, as we are looking to potentially go private in the transaction I think you're referring to, we just couldn't find the valuation based on our expectations of the business. And so, I think the hardest thing sometimes to do is say no, but I think here it was the right thing to do, given the promise of our business. The future is very strong. You see the operating results this quarter. We've had 2 years since I've arrived. Our growth CAGR is 10% in an industry that grows mid-single digits. So we're taking market share. We're growing faster than our competitors, and we believe we have a very valuable business. And so we're not going to sell it cheaply.
Were the suitors interested in your business? Were they undervaluing your product pipeline?
They always do. R&D is a risky business, as you may know. And so, we tend to have the most insight into the programs because we live them, and our team stays with them day by day. And acquirers, even in this situation or any situation, always tend to discount it. I think I was explaining to you off camera, I was developing migraine drugs at Allergan, and there were so many skeptics. And now those drugs are both approved and they're doing great. AbbVie's doing an amazing job with them. But they're, when before they were approved, they were massively discounted in our valuation. And now they're big drivers of value for AbbVie because they're approved and they're doing well. So there's always skepticism in R&D. I expect that, but there was definitely a deeper discount ascribed to our R&D pipeline, whether it be in pharma or contact lenses or surgical or even consumer, than I think the value we see in those programs.
I mean, your company it's a legendary name, legendary business. It's a big business. I mean, how much do you think it's worth?
More than our stock trades, unfortunately. But look, it's not about what it's necessarily worth at this moment today. I think it's what do we believe we can do with it over the next couple of years, and given our remake of this company since I joined 2 years ago, I think our future has never been more exciting. Our pipeline we're a 170-year-old company, and I'm a student of history. Our pipeline has never been stronger. Our operational capabilities have never been stronger. And this is a great industry. And so we're in a great industry and well positioned in it with a great team. We have more work to do to continue to improve and get better, but we're on a great path, and I'm super excited about the future. So I think our valuation is much higher than what the market ascribes to it.
So you think, I mean, so there's just no more talks. Like you're going to drive value from the business. I mean, do you think this is a process you restart this year?
No, I doubt it. You can never say never, but look, we have a big ambitious plan for 25, and frankly, as I look at 26, 27, it's even a bolder plan. And so, we're heads down and focused on operating the business and driving the best results we can.
So there's lots of, suffice to say, there's a lot of healthcare focus right now with the new administration. Now you have two plants in China. Does your business get impacted by tariffs?
On a de minimis level, we have a very broad manufacturing footprint. And it's both a strength and a weakness, right? Because it's so broad, it's a little less efficient than perhaps our competitors. But as you mentioned, we have two plants in China, but they make for China. Our plants in Europe make for Europe. Our plants in the US make for the US. So we don't move a whole lot of product around the world that would be impacted by tariffs. We make most of our products in the market for the market that it's in. So we're a big US manufacturer, which is very rare in our industry. We make all of our contact lenses in the US for the US, all of our surgical products in the US for the US, all of our pharmaceuticals in the US for the US. So we're not moving products. Now we do move some raw materials, API or componentry, and so there could be some impact there, but it would be de minimis.
A lot of leaders I've talked to, Brent, that do business in China, a lot of restaurant CEOs, to be honest with you, they voice concern that it might be harder to do business in China with their Chinese operations because of everything that's going on with trade concerns. Do you share their concerns?
I don't necessarily for us. I understand why they may say that. Look, I think I'll be in China next week. Actually, I'm going over there to Shanghai next week. We're pretty big in China. We've been there for a long time. We entered China in the 80s, and we're still in a joint venture structure, which is the old way you had to go into China. And so we're kind of a quasi-global local brand in China. Our team has done an amazing job really creating direct consumer capabilities in China. And our growth there has been quite strong, particularly in our contact lens business, has been and surgical as well. But both of those businesses have had double-digit growth this year, and I'll be there next week. But the team is doing an amazing job in China. Really proud of that team.
I'll put this question to you, Brent. What is, just given all of your experience over many decades in healthcare, what is the problem with our healthcare system? Why is everything so expensive? Like, where is there someone to blame? A product, a service, a company? And what's the solution here to fixing things?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of blame to go around. It's a very complex system with lots of different moving parts. And I think the fix is quite complicated, but if I had to pick one area to really focus on to fix it, I really think it's quite simple: transparency. I think that, if we look at what Doge is doing, right, and whether you like it or dislike it, the one thing that's hard to criticize Doge on is they're bringing massive transparency, right? They're putting out on the web or on X every day, what they're doing, what programs are being canceled. We should have real pricing transparency on healthcare services in the United States. We should understand why we pay what we pay, where you can get it perhaps at a lower cost, who's getting paid, where is the money going. And I think if you do that, you're going to find a lot of inefficiency in the system. That being said, we have the best healthcare system in the world for most, not for all, and we need to solve that too. But there's no better place to be if you're truly sick than the United States, because our innovation, our access to the best doctors and care is better than any other country. We just need to make it more accessible and affordable for everybody. And there are a lot of fixes, but transparency, I think, would start that ball really rolling. And I think the president can do that. I know President Trump talked about that as an executive order in his first term, and I hope he really reconsiders it in the second term.
Does the problem with transparency lie more with drug makers or the drug middlemen?
Well, I think it will probably point out some inefficiencies with the middlemen for sure. But I also think it will in healthcare services. Why, when you go to one hospital and you want to get an MRI and it's, let's say, $700, but you can go to a freestanding MRI center and get it for $200. Why shouldn't you as a consumer know that, right? And it could just be a block away. And so I think we need transparency, not just in the pharmaceutical sector, but we needed it across the board in all services. You've probably gone to the doctor and you get your bill. Let's say it's $1,000, and your insurance pays the doctor $200, right? And the problem with that is because you have insurance, you get that $200 negotiated discount or $800 discount, right? You only pay $200. But if you didn't have insurance and no one was there to advocate for that discount, you pay the highest price possible. And that doesn't seem equitable either, right? And transparency goes a long way to start solving why are you paying $200 but the next person's paying $1,000? Why is that differential?
In the last couple minutes, Brent, we always love to get our hot takes, a hot take from a guest. Let me put this one to you. And this one's going to be a little out there because I thought you're a cool guy, and I think you've been around the industry a lot. So I continue to see these posts from Brian Johnson. You have to be following what this guy's doing, trying to reverse engineer his age. Is reverse, I don't even know if this is called, I'm saying it right, is reverse aging the future of healthcare? Am I someday going to be taking 70 vitamins and measuring things like he's doing?
Well, I think I do follow Brian. I think he's out there on the extreme of this, right? And this is what I say to all my friends, because I invest a lot and I'm involved in the anti-aging movement, and the science is tremendous. And what's going to come over the next several years is going to be terrific. That being said, before you take your 70 vitamins, my advice to everybody, the triangle of longevity or extending health span, healthy living, right, is eating well, sleeping well, and some exercise. And before you take your 70 vitamins, if you're not doing those three things well, you're really, fighting an uphill battle. And so it starts with behavior modification, right? And really focusing on your sleep, your eating, and exercise. And then if you're really the best at that, okay, start thinking about what else can you do to supplement. Otherwise, you're chasing that much gain and you're leaving that much on the table because you're not following the triangle of healthy lifespan. And so a lot of it is within our control. It requires discipline. It's hard, and people don't like that. They love a pill versus the hard work. But really, I wouldn't take any pills till I mastered the triangle of sleep, eating, and exercise.
Brandon, you left out, of course, wearing amazingly comfortable Bausch Lomb contact lenses if you need to.
Absolutely, and I do wear them sometimes too, and they are really, my issue is I forget to take them out at night.
Yeah, me too. I had to stop doing them. My eye doctor yelled at me. He's like, you got to start taking these things out, bro. You can't leave them in overnight. You're not 22 anymore.
Right, we're going to try to solve that, but yes, that is true.
All right. Wait, so you're actually, these contacts, I'm going to be able to sleep in these things?
Well, we're looking at different technology. There is some technology where you can sleep in your lenses for a few nights, and you could probably do that with a few that are on the market, but I think we really want to improve that. So perhaps you can leave them in. It still has to be proven in clinicals.
Oh yeah, take that, eye doctor. Yeah. Brent Saunders, good to see you, man. It's been too long.
Thanks,
Bausch Lomb, Chair and CEO. Brent Saunders, good to see you. We'll talk to you soon.
Great, thank you.
All right, and be sure to hit us with all those likes all over the podcast platforms, YouTube. Appreciate all the comments. I try to answer all your questions. Keep them coming. Bring it on. I appreciate the intense activity. We'll talk to you soon.